Hello everyone, this is Casey, the author of The Fish That Loved the Bird on Webtoons. I decided to make this quick tutorial of how I make my average comic page. This isn't how every artist does it, this is just my process with a couple tips and tricks, maybe, hopefully, if you use this program. Okay, to start, obviously you need to open a new document. I have Clip Studio EX, which allows you to create documents that contain a bunch of pages. So I have like chapter 7 here, pages 1 through 24. The document size, it pops up with a blank page, but the document size I use is, these are all millimeters, so it's 297 by 420 with 350 dpi resolution. But then I have the draft setting, which is the blue line, which is like a bleed if you were ever going to go to printing. So then the width is 257 by 364. Next, I move on to my basic thumbnailing. So the figures are very rough and the panels are very roughly laid in. Then I go to panels, and then I go to the actual sketching page. This is all personal preference, up to you. I don't work out the characters very well at all. I really just go for the gold. I have the basic layout that I had when I did the thumbnailing. I use the darker pencil tool that is just a standard brush in Clip Studio. The next thing I do is go in and very, very roughly fill in the background. This is never very pretty. It's just basically where I want the tree to be, and I don't draw anything out. The next thing I do is I go to inking. I ink on a layer in the masked layers that are created when you masked folder that's created when you make the panels. I always highlight it red to know which layer my character inks are on, and then yeah, you just ink. I also once again just use the G-nib pen that is standard in the Clip Studio. I always use brush size 12 unless there's something closer or farther away from the viewer, which I'll mix it up and go like 10 or 20, not 20, but 10 or 15 on the brush size to show depth and distance. I then hide all of the character layers before I start inking the background, because I want the background to be standalone from the characters, not to try to draw it around the characters. So I create a new layer in the same masked folder with the character line art, and I just start drawing in the trees and stuff. My backgrounds are not very good. I don't like drawing nature. I would prefer to draw buildings, so my trees and stuff are a little wonky, but also they are going to be mostly covered by the characters because my panels are very character driven. Then I bring back the character layer and turn the opacity down so I can see the background layer well through it, and I meticulously, slowly go through and erase all the background out from the characters. This is just my personal preference. Again, you could have the character flat color above the background line art and you wouldn't have to go through and erase it, but I like it this way, even though then if you move something you have to go and redraw the background. So I create a layer underneath the two ink layers and start coloring. I use the paint bucket tool on the refer to another layer, so it will fill in referring to the layers like above it or below it. So the layer I am using doesn't have any information on it. The paint bucket tool is taking the information from the two layers above it and only filling in like the character's hair and stuff. It's a super useful thing. I don't think Photoshop has it, but it's one of my favorite features in Clip Studio. Straight into flattening the background, so I make another fresh layer below the character colors. I go in and fill the color around the characters. And then once those are both filled in to like the most standard basic way, you can see all of the white holes, and then I go back and fill in like the whites of the eyes and like things that aren't ever closed and some of the pixels that are missed, and just make sure there's nothing super obvious being gross, and then filling in colors that are small parts that I didn't hit with a paint bucket, whatever it may be. After I'm done with the character layer, I go back and do the same thing for the background layer. And since the background layer's flats is under the characters, you can fill in under the characters and it's not going to show through. And then I do my shadows with a darken layer on like a dark brownish when they're above water and like a dark purple when they're below water, because it's a really fast way to just add some shadows and not have to figure out the shadow for every color. So you just turn the opacity down on the darken with like the dark brown, kind of saturated. All of my colors are very saturated. That's just how I am. I should be more tricky with my shadows and like figure out where the lighting really is. But like I said, comics are a fast medium. You don't spend too much time on anything. And then after I do the characters, it's the same exact thing for the background, just darken layer on limited opacity. And then you fill it in. This is my, I feel, almost signature. It's adding the blushes in. So that's on a multiply layer above the color character flats. And I go and select all of the skin tones, and then I'll use the airbrush on just a bright red and just put some blushes there. I add an overlay to kind of merge the colors all together to make it look more cohesive. It's super simple, especially in this page, just adding the text and text balloons. Here's the part that's like severely me. I don't think most people work like this. If you didn't notice, I work in the standard comic page format, and then I will go and meticulously cut out all of the panels and paste them into a long canvas for the Webtoon's scrolling format. And then for the last thing, if you stuck around this long, you deserve this knowledge. This has changed my life. I used to go through and manually cut every update, like it has to be 800 by 1280. So the canvas I made was the 800, but it was obviously very long. So I'd have to chop that up. I watched a video by, I should find out who, I'll link them in the description. They showed me this lovely website, which is easiest to find if you Google Croppy Webtoon, but CROPPY, not my misspelling. I also put the like hyperlink in the video so you can copy that too, but just Google it. And it'll come up and it's like this little cute girl. And then right there, line Webtoon, you upload the long file and it automatically cuts it for you. It's the most time-saving thing I've ever done in my life. So even if you do the long format, this will save you 100%. It chops it up, it saves it as a zip right back onto your computer, and then you can just open the zip file and upload it. Okay everyone, thanks so much for watching. Sorry my voice is cringy, sorry the quality is cringy.